You're already experiencing the next variant. The idea, again, is that, as we have said, the eye of the needle will take you all the way, generally, into 2023. This doesn't mean you will experience the same things during that passage, but it is still always an opportunity to examine yourself deeply and let go of those fear-based beliefs. And remember that physical reality can be just as spiritual as spirit, depending upon how you relate to it. The choices that you make during the eye of the needle ought to be representative and reflective of the path of least resistance to your belief system. It is not about fighting to be spiritual, but the idea of relaxing into your spirituality so that you will become more aware, more conscious of what the choices are that actually will work best for you, and not necessarily to force yourself into a belief system that you do not believe you can sustain. So the idea of the passage of the eye of the needle is still a house cleaning experience, as you may say, to really let go, clear out all of those belief systems, assumptions, insistences that you believe you might need, and really relax into the flow of your truth to allow things to fall into place in the easiest, most effortless possible way.
Are cetaceans helping us in this phase of transformation?
In some senses, because they are telepathically connected to many different energies and civilizations, they are bringing that energy to your planet and distributing it, so to speak, radiating it, if you wish, to the rest of the world to make it available to those who are willing to take advantage of it. But they are also going to go through their own experience of transformation, parallel to yours, so that when you both come out the other end, along with many other beings on your planet, you will truly have renewed yourselves and stepped into a different reality more consciously.
Yes, I know that the dolphins are actually experiencing their own form of virus.
Yes.
And
so they
that's
will reflect, they will assist, but they will also have their own ideas of experiences to go through so that they can be in synchronous harmony with what humanity is experiencing as well.
You mentioned that the positivity of the Earth is now a little more than 50%. And coronavirus inoculations in the US now seem to have stalled at just over 50%. Is the amount of completed inoculations an indication of our overall state of positivity?
To some degree, and also, of course, a representation of whatever states of negativity you are still holding on to in your belief systems.
What can we do to reverse the trends in extreme wildfires? How can we individually navigate to a reality where this and other aspects of climate change start to balance out?
Follow the formula. Again, that is your rudder. That is your tiller. That is your navigation mechanism. Always follow the formula as clearly, precisely, and fully as you can. This is not going to necessarily happen overnight. You're still going to shift through billions of other versions of Earth to get to the versions that will be more reflective of what you prefer, because this gives you the opportunity to still examine all the things that are going on, to make decisions, to help others who may yet need to see living examples of following your joy. So this will be a process that will happen over time. But the idea is, again, different versions of Earth are experiencing different things with regard to climate change, and you may see some shifts. But the idea of the climate change that you're experiencing now cannot fully be reversed. It can only be adapted to. But the idea is that as you progress through the different versions, you will eventually navigate yourself to a version of Earth where things will seem to reverse or mitigate to some degree, and then they will continue in that momentum for a while after that. Just keep going, just keep acting, just keep following the formula. It contains everything you need and leaves nothing out, including the experience of your physical reality on all levels and in all parallel realities.
And this burning of the forests, was this something that's happened previously on Earth in other periods of warming of the planet?
It has. And in many cases, nature does this so that it can replenish. Of course, the main difference that exists now is simply the habitations that you have built in areas that in the past were able to burn without destroying any structures because no structures existed. So now you have allowed yourself to create the kind of imbalance with nature that allowed you to put your structures in the way of the natural way that the earth has of replenishing itself in periods such as this.
And previously, I guess in the United States, the Native Americans were the ones who sort of tended the forests. Is there something in our behavior with the way that we're managing our forests that is exacerbating this situation?
Yes, of course, because the idea is you have accelerated these cycles greatly by the pollution of your atmosphere and other aspects of your world. And you have been out of balance with nature in many different ways that allows these things to be magnified many more times. The American Indians also did actually set fires purposely here and there under controlled conditions to allow certain sections of the forest to replenish itself, but they understood exactly to what degree to do this. It was not the idea of a rampant or out of control experience in most cases for them.
See. There's a question about a woman named Anjali who held a press conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial to talk about her experiences meeting different ET races. Are you familiar with this at all?
To some degree, but it is not necessarily relevant for us to comment on.
Okay. So the next question is, if we are never alone, why do I feel so lonely?
Well, first of all, your definitions about the idea of being on your own. The idea that you feel disconnected from things comes from definitions within you, whether consciously or unconsciously, that allow you to feel the idea or the experience of that disconnection, which can allow you to then experience being lonely. So the idea is to get in touch with your belief systems, to understand you're always connected. Now, this doesn't mean you will always be aware of the connections, and you have to be okay with that, because in many cases, you have to go through whatever processes are necessary for you to learn as an individual. But just because you are learning these things as an individual and don't necessarily sense the presence of others all the time, or even most of the time, doesn't mean they're not there to help you. Please do understand that it doesn't mean that when you have help, you're going to hear that help or perceive that help in necessarily any gigantic way or obvious way, because the idea is that your guides are allowing you to learn how to be your own best guide. So they will guide you with subtlety. They will guide you with whispers. They will guide you with synchronicity and suggestions that you may even think are your own, in your own thoughts, in your own mind. So you are never really alone, but the idea is that you're always given the privacy and the independence to function as your own best guide. So just know you're not alone, but let it be okay for you to not always sense the presence of others, because that might interfere with your ability to strengthen your own self and get in touch with your own powers to create the reality that you truly prefer.
I remember one time you talked about the idea of the word alone and how it actually also represents the idea of all one.
Yes. So again, it's about definitions, it's about perspective, and it's about understanding how to use those definitions to create the atmosphere and the environment in which you can thrive while not necessarily being held by the hand constantly.
So the idea, you could always ask yourself, am I thinking of myself as being alone, or am I remembering that we're all one?
Yes, and also, again, many people on your planet may experience the concept of loneliness because, again, they have insistences on how things should happen in their life, and when they don't see it, they give it a negative definition. They may insist on the idea of having certain kinds or attracting certain kinds of relationships. And when they don't see them, they feel that they have been abandoned. But all these things come from belief systems within you that you really need to get in touch with, really need to let go of, so that you can change what you feel. Because remember, all feelings stem from something you define and believe to be true. There's no such thing as a feeling existing in a vacuum. It has to come from something you believe in to begin with. So get honest, get deep, get transparent in your self-examination, and truly let go of those fear-based beliefs and insistences that you may not even know you're holding on to, but which are the only things that can create the experience that you're describing as loneliness. You think you're missing something in your belief system.
What's the difference between like being your true vibration and people who are popular or charismatic? Is there a relationship between that and individuals who may not be quite that way and often feel alone because they're lonely because they're not attracting lots of friends?
All right. Well, again, there's insistence in that definition, and you've kind of mixed several definitions in there into one thing. You don't have to necessarily attract a lot of people to be on your true vibration. In fact, there are some people who don't attract people at all because their true vibration is to experience and examine and investigate things more on their own than with others. But the idea is that what you're referring to as charisma is just a particular kind of experience that goes with some people being in their true vibration. And not always do people have to be in their true vibration to attract others into their lives in great quantities. It depends on what lessons they have to learn by the reflections that others may bring into their reality with them. So the idea or the measure of being in your true vibration is not necessarily represented by the idea of popularity or charisma. It's really just what is correct and relevant for you to experience that allows you to become more of your true self. And remember, some people will experience the idea of attracting many people, sometimes even to, shall we say, disguise things within themselves that they don't want to look at by distracting themselves, by surrounding themselves with a lot of people, so that they don't have to pay attention to the things they don't want to look at within themselves. So you can't always tell, just because they may be attracting a lot of people, whether they're doing that for a positive or a negative reason. Okay. Much at all. And it depends upon what you call sleep, because they can make connections to their spirit selves in a more constant way than you do, and therefore don't need the idea of sleep in the same way that you do. They might even just drop into what you would call a meditative state temporarily, and it would accomplish the same thing that you're accomplishing by having many hours of sleep. So neither of them really sleep much in that sense. The idea, again, of food is that it is usually of a lighter quality, more of the idea of either juices or vegetables in that sense. And in their daily lives, it depends upon the individual. Some are creatively artistic, some are scientifically investigative, some have many different kinds of functions according to their passions. So in that sense, they have a lot of similarity, even though they have a lot of differences as well. For the Pleiadians are mostly your genetic cousins in the sense of being of assistance to you to move forward in your civilization in an exciting way that brings you closer together. Whereas the Yael are more specifically about introducing the hybrid children to your planet to begin the particular process of evolving into the sixth hybrid race.
Hello, hi Bashar, how are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm great. Yeah, Bashar, so I have a question related to sacred circuits. So I wanted to know if tetrascallion, or the swastika symbol that was also used in the Nazi flag, with a circle in the center, a sacred circuit.
It is a sacred circuit, but on a higher level than we've delivered at this point. Understand that the swastika has been around for thousands of years and represents the idea of the flow of creative energy in the cosmos, in the universe. So yes, it's a sacred circuit that can help rewire the brain when focused on in a positive energy, in a positive state, to understand how to blend with and align with the creative energies of the universe, of all that is. But it has to be used that way. Obviously, the way the Nazis used it was a misunderstanding and a corruption of its original intention, which exists in many ancient civilizations, Tibetan, Native American, so on and so forth. They understood its original meaning and used it in its original way. So you can too, if you wish.
Okay, so is there a single word that we can associate with it?
A single word?
Yeah, like you have given for other sacred circuits.
Yes. Alignment with creation. It's not a single word, but it's a concept.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Bashar. And I also have a question related to the Anunnaki. So, why was it out of integrity on part of the Anunnaki to create humans for their survival?
Because it was against their laws to do so.
Okay,
Because the idea of the creation, the injection of their genetic material to create a new species was simply not within the realm of their acceptable laws at the time, especially because they didn't necessarily guide those people correctly, where new Anunnaki had to come in to do so to make up for the mistakes that that group of Anunnaki that created Homo sapiens undertook. So they broke their laws in many different ways,
okay,
out of desperation.
okay. And who was or what was Apep or Apophis that is said to have been attacking Ra, the ancient Egyptian god?
The idea of Apophis was simply the idea of the destructive principle.
Okay, so it was not an entity or some being.
Not in the way that you mean it, no. It's an archetypal energy that represents the energy of breaking things down, of destroying things so they can be rebuilt. Of course, there are many different interpretations that have happened on your planet.
Okay. And did the Sasquatch also have any incarnation connection to the ancient Orion system?
No.
Oh, okay. So they did not have any negative expressions of oppression or warfare.
They had their own pathway, but they do not share much of it with Homo sapiens.
Okay, so can we say, like, say the warfare and oppression is actually a genetic problem?
No. It's a training problem. It's a learning issue. It's a matter of happening into a system that has certain kinds of negative cycles associated with it in order for the purpose of overcoming them, of transforming them. But it's not really a genetic problem initially. It can embed itself in your genetics over time, but it doesn't originate because of the genetic structure.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that the Earth has a frequency of 7.85 hertz, and then Earth is also a world of cycles. So, how does this frequency of 7.85 hertz cause the cyclic nature of the Earth?
It is the base cycle that encourages you to come back to alignment. The idea is that when the cycle becomes something other than that, when the frequency becomes something other than that, you can be going out of alignment and following the cycles of destruction. But by going back into alignment with the natural resonance of the earth, then you are bringing yourself back into alignment and thus allowing yourself to go beyond the original cycles that give you the opportunity to explore negativity and limitation.
Okay, Bashar. And can you share a vibrational phone number for Shambhala?
Shambhala, or Shangri-La, as some people refer to it, has a image that you can meditate on of 3 crystal spheres, one being pure white, one being soft blue, and one being soft pink.
Okay, in what shape or
In a triangle.
okay, in a triangle?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then I think I will have the last question now. So, what is your definition of death, Bashar? And is there a way to have life review that we have after dying while we are alive?
Yes, you can experience some degree of life review while you are alive, but in most cases that would be pointless because you're still alive. Therefore, you wouldn't necessarily have a complete life review. You may get moments of it, flashes of it, that can help you align yourself. But in the idea of transitioning into spirit, when you are done with this particular experience, then it is more appropriate for you to have the entire life review, because then you can understand the relationship and the connections between every single moment of the actual physical life experience. But sometimes when people are in certain circumstances and they say, oh, my life flashed before my eyes, in some sense they are tapping into the idea of life review because they truly believe that at any moment they might die. But there are other circumstances where you can come to an understanding, a gestalt understanding of something, and tap into the idea of recognizing what something was all about in your life. But you will not necessarily have an entire life review unless you are either close to death or have actually died.
Okay, Bashar.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Bashar.
Good day.
Yeah, good day to you too. Bye.
Hi, Bashar. This is Karen from Belgium. I have learned to trust the signs that I get on my path, and there are a lot of signs that have to do with ancient Egypt. So I would like to know something more about ancient Egypt. What was the main energy frequency in ancient Egypt? Where did the inhabitants came from? And were there connections to Sirius or to Orion? Can you speak a bit more about this? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, there were many connections to Sirius and ancient Orion in being played out in many civilizations on your planet over time. As we have said, there are many stories that are the continuation from many different places that allow you to play them out and figure out how you would like them to conclude or move on by joining the Earth cycle of opportunity to explore those things. We're not sure what you're asking when you say what was the frequency of ancient Egypt, because you're talking about a combined frequency of many, many hundreds of thousands of different individuals. If you're looking for an overall representation of ancient Egypt as a resonant frequency, you could say that they were existing somewhere, depending on who was involved, in the neighborhood of about 60 to 70,000 up to 80,000 cycles per second. But again, it depends upon what era. It depends upon what their focus was at that particular time. It depends upon how many remnants of the Atlantean civilization they incorporated into their culture, and many other things. So we can't necessarily give you one particular frequency, but a range of frequencies from somewhere around 50 to 60 to 70 to 80,000 cycles per second, depending upon who was doing what in that culture at the time. Good day.
Hello. Hi, Bashar. How are you?
Perfect. And you?
Thank you very much. Good as well. Perfect
Good.
as you are.
All right.
Bashar, I'm very happy to tell you that finally we have a result that prove that the devices that you describe are actually resonators.
Yes.
And we receive 10 times the amplitude of the input. We receive a resonant frequency 10 times greater. But we receive it with the cones that you describe, with the most primitive version.
That's why we gave you that basic form to begin with. It is the core of everything that you are exploring.
Yes, and the frequency that we have resonance is 80 kilohertz, but very interestingly, we have a secondary resonant frequency, which is 3 times higher.
Yes.
240 kilohertz. Again, the resonance is 10 times greater.
Yes.
What I would like to ask you is that we know that sometimes higher voltage does not mean a generation of power. How we can improve this? Is there anything else we can do to improve this? Because my passion is to explore the space-time fuse and create the device.
And then explore it. You will discover what you need. We have given you enough so that you will have the momentum to use your own imagination, to explore what you need, to find what you need at this moment. You have enough to go on, as you have just discovered and as you have just stated. You're getting the results that you need to take you further.
And I would like to share with you that we have also result. I was listening to your words alone among the nature to get more information of what you have said already.
Yes.
And finally realized that the insulating plates of the anti-gravity device, they need to be not so wide. They need to be gaps very.
All right. Well, you see, that's exactly what we're saying. When you take it upon yourself to go into the places that you're attracted to go and go into the states that you're attracted to be in, you will get the information you need. It will be downloaded from many different sources, including us. But you have the ability now to do these things by putting yourself in the proper frame of mind, in the proper environment that is conducive to getting the information that you need. So you now have these abilities. You don't need us as much as you think you do.
Okay.
All right.
And my last question is, because you say that some help from Sirius, is there any message or is there any particular permission slip I can using to connect?
Focus on the Mobius strip.
Mobius strip, like the loop, like infinity loop.
Yes. Focus on that in a meditative state. It will help you download the information that you need.
Any particular colors like blue and white and
we leave that up to you, but remember the colors of the signature of Sirius.
Yes, I just make a meditation on that.
All right. Thank you.
Bashar, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You are welcome.